Now Trae has it with 6. Trae with 5. Trae dribbling, driving, floater. It's around the rim and in. Trae Young scores with 9/10 of a second left. And the Hawks have taken the lead.
Trae Young com a bola do jogo.
It got real quiet in there. They're still yelling now. I don't care. Next one.
This is not what I wanted to talk about on the show today. This is not how I wanted to start the very first NBA playoffs edition of Stephen A's World, talking about my New York Knicks losing game 1 at home. I was at MSG last night. Spike Lee was there too. Tracy Morgan was there. Everybody wanted to be there. The first Knicks playoff game in 8 years. But none of us knew that what we actually showed up for was Trae Young's coming out party. That wasn't listed on the ticket. The first Knicks playoff game in 8 years was also the first playoff game of Trae Young's 3-year NBA career. And this postseason debut went about as well as you could have scripted it. If you're a Hawks fan, 32 points, 10 assists, and a game-winning dagger that silenced Madison Square Garden, myself included. Trae Young stole the show. Might have just made himself a new MSG villain in the process. A modern-day Reggie Miller. The rest of the series will determine that. But this series might not last long if Julius Randle doesn't have a coming-out party of his own on this playoff stage. If Julius Randle doesn't play like the MVP candidate he was down the stretch, if R.J. Barrett doesn't help out, if Trae Young is putting up more points than them combined, the Knicks return to the postseason. It's going to be over real quick. If Alec Burks is leading the Knicks in scoring every game like he did in game 1, the Knicks are in serious trouble. Trae Young, he's going to have more big games, y'all. We know that. That's who he is. But Julius Randle has to stand up, too. But those whole Knicks team is going to have to sit down in about a week. And that's not something I want to talk about on this show either. Okay?
I think this season was absolutely a success, Anthony. We would have loved to have gotten into the playoffs and tried to make a run. We were really a good team over the last 22 games, I guess. To put together a stretch like that over an entire quarter of the season, that's not a fluke.
The Golden State Warriors were just 2 seasons removed from going to the NBA Finals 5 times in a row. And Steve Kerr is telling us that this season was a success? This Warriors team had Steph Curry, an MVP finalist, maybe putting up the best year of his illustrious career, and yet they didn't even officially make the playoffs. And Steve Kerr wants to tell us this season was a success. Really? Well, here's the thing about Steve Kerr that we should all adopt right now. We should agree with him 100%. I know I do. I really do. Everything you said, Steve Kerr, is exactly right. Closing the season on a 15-5 run with the players at your disposal was a success. Yeah, maybe you could have given Utah a run in the first round like Memphis is doing. Maybe you could have won that play-in game against the Lakers. Ended up being the 7th seed, and you would have been going up against the Phoenix Suns, which would have been a better matchup for you. Either way you slice it, this Warriors team wasn't going to win a chip, though, and we all know that. But we learned a lot about the Golden State Warriors this year. We learned that Steph Curry has a whole lot left in the tank, that he is still the greatest shooter on the planet Earth. We learned the Warriors have some nice young pieces in James Wiseman and Jordan Poole. We learned that Draymond Green is still a very valuable asset, even though he needs to improve his shooting, and that Steve Kerr still has all the respect of that locker room. And before long, we're going to learn the most important information of all: Klay Thompson's return date. That's what. All signs point to a healthy return from his Achilles injury, the same injury that Kevin Durant returned from this year successfully. This season was a success for the Golden State Warriors, but next year, with the Splash Brothers reunited, anything less than a trip to the Western Conference Finals will be a failure. I'll rip Steve Kerr plenty if they fall short next year, but I don't expect I'll have to, because the Warriors are coming, y'all. Get ready. At least a trip to the Western Conference Finals. If Klay Thompson and Steph Curry are healthy. That's right, I said it. And I mean it.
It's about the health and safety of my family. And that's what it came down to. Me being available to my teammates on the floor, as me taking my body. doing everything I can do to make sure I'm available both mentally, physically, and spiritually as well. So, but anything of that nature, that's all family talk.
And do you mind me asking if you're confirming that you did get the vaccine?
It's not a big deal.
A little over a month ago, Kevin Porter Jr. of the Houston Rockets missed 3 games due to violating the NBA's COVID-related health and safety protocols after a visit to a Miami club. Remember that? Now, let me let you all in on a little secret about the NBA. Go ahead, lean in close to the screen if you want. Are you ready? You ready? Kevin Porter Jr. is not LeBron James. He's not. Kevin Porter Jr. is a nice young player, but he's not King James, not even close. And the Houston Rockets are definitely not the Los Angeles Lakers. Like it or not, things are not equal in sports between superstars and their lesser rivals. There are double standards, huge double standards, rules that the top players in the sport simply do not have to follow. Is it fair? Of course not. Is it going to change? Hell no. And by the way, it shouldn't. The NBA is a business, and the playoffs are the biggest showcase of the NBA business. There's simply no scenario where the NBA keeps LeBron James off the court in the playoffs for going to a promotional event with Drake and Michael B. Jordan. It's just not going to happen, especially not at this point in the pandemic. You can criticize LeBron for breaking protocol if you want to. And by the way, you should. He should be disappointed in himself. Especially that weak answer to questions at the press conference. It's just pathetic. You got to be more responsible and show more leadership than what he's shown with some of them weak, pathetic answers. But you're wasting your breath thinking the NBA is going to suspend him for it, especially with it being an outdoor event and the league saying no threat of virus spread occurred because people were actually tested, by the way, at Rich Paul's house. That's where it was, the house of his agent in Beverly Hills, by the way. There's a better chance they suspend him for flopping. You know that's not happening either. We all know that with greatness comes great expectations, great responsibility, but it's time to accept that greatness comes with even greater double standards. That's just how the world works, especially in a capitalistic society. When the hell are we going to get over that and stop acting like that's not a reality? Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.